On July 1st, 2019, the governor of Florida signed in legislation approving the cultivation of hemp. They've created a Florida statute, and nobody was really prepared for it. Defense community, the police departments, the state attorney's office, nobody really was on board with it. So this comes into law, and one of the definitions in there makes hemp a legal product, the exact same thing as marijuana, just a lower THC content. It looks the same, it smells the same, it's identical for our purposes, but in order to be proven of what it is, it has to be tested in a laboratory setting. Now, I'm sure they'll have test kits, or they'll make some that can tell the difference between hemp and THC, but is it really even worth it? We're gonna test that on the side of the road, and it's not admissible in court. So what are you gonna do with it in court? FDLE is going to test all these marijuana cases. They stopped doing that years ago because they were flooded. So we're gonna bring that back on board? I mean, sure, they could do it, but does that make any sense? I don't think so. There hasn't been a consistent response across the agencies that I've had interactions with since the change in the law. I've heard of sub-agencies disbanding their K-9 program almost immediately. I've heard of other agencies just totally ignoring the new change of the law to let's see what happens. Other agencies have said stop making arrests. It's all over the place. The emerging consensus, though, is that the new standard for search is probably going to be along the lines of smell of marijuana plus another factor. So smell plus, we've seen that before. It creates a subjective standard. It's horrible. And it's the whole reason that the police departments should not be creating these policies without the input from the community. They're getting input from the legal people and the prosecution, but they're not looking at it from a practical standpoint. And so we're gonna have it one-sided, it's gonna be unconstitutional, and it's gonna be in litigation forever. It'd be better if we could just sit down, discuss what the policy should be, and at least have some input from both sides, and then they can make their decision. You know, tie it up with bad case law on confusing stuff that creates officers in bad positions where they gotta make subjective decisions. It's not a good result for the community, and it's not a good result for police officers. But that's where we're at, because we're still in modern day politics. Anyways, I digress. I got a call today from a guy who thought he had a warrant for his arrest for possession of marijuana, and he got pulled over by the police, and the police let him go despite having the warrant, is what he was telling me, and it just wasn't making any sense. Well, what really happened, he got pulled over, the police found the weed in the trunk of his car, but based upon their new policy, they're not arresting people. So the officer, she was like, hey, this is more than 20 grams, it's 50 grams, this is a felony. I'm gonna send this off to the laboratory to be tested, and FDLE, and if it tests positive for marijuana, which it's going to, I'm gonna have a warrant written for your arrest to be prosecuted. And so my guy, he hasn't hired me yet, I don't know, he's still thinking about it, but he had no idea what to make of this, because he was told he had to turn himself. We're in new times. Officers are gonna be saying things that don't make much sense. You gotta be ready for that. Go with the flow. You gotta keep in mind that search, or that odor plus. They're looking for some other action besides the odor alone in order to search the car. So just be calm, collective, don't say anything, and hey, you might even wanna get an I love hemp sticker. So the bottom line is, you have to be prepared for this odor of marijuana plus one thing. And I don't know what that plus one thing is. That's gonna create the confusion. So that could be maybe time, location, number of people, age of, I don't know. I have no idea what that plus thing is gonna be, but you can guarantee it's not gonna be in your favor. The plus is gonna be something minor. So you still have to be worried about getting searched. Get yourself a Florida Loves Hemp Farmer sticker so that the cops right upon walking your car have reason to believe that you may have hemp in your car and therefore it's a legal substance. That would be a positive factor towards them not searching you as opposed to an aggravating factor allowing them to search. A lot of questions still. A lot of questions. If you're stopped by the police and you are detained or marijuana odor has anything to do with your arrest or with your seizure, with getting notice to appear, whatever, you need to contact a lawyer who's aware of this law. Because right now, there's a lot that aren't. It's starting to make its way around, but you're gonna have, my Aunt Jane who practiced real estate law, she's not gonna know about this, and you don't want her handling your basic misdemeanor case that she could normally get you in a diversion. New change of the law, big things. Hey, go ahead, subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. Have a good one. That's kind of making me look weird. Am I doing this in slow motion?